So when I started Dufferin News, I told myself that the local media itself would be hands off. If I was going to call them out, it would only be because of the behavior of their corporate parents, like the Toronto Star or the National Post. But I wasn't going to do that with the actual papers like the Banner or the Citizen, because I believe they perform a public service. And I know they're under resourced and they're just doing their best, like everybody else. But after what I've been seeing them publish the last week and realizing how much of their reporting is funded by the taxpayers, I feel the need to hold them publicly accountable for this because it seems like they're quite possibly putting the public at risk by inflating these stories about being anti-mask um, and trying to exacerbate the concerns around this. So quite possibly that county leaders hold up on the order. I don't understand what they're trying to accomplish with this other than drive clicks, which again, if that's just your aim here, well, exacerbating stories of things that could put the public health at risk, while ignoring other stories that are quite possibly affecting the community more just because it would criticize the people that are essentially paying your bills right now, Orangeville Banner. And I can understand why you're not going to call them out for that, but it shows a lot of bias and it shows a lot of lack of judgment when you do that, when you ignore those things that are actually affecting people a lot that could really be helped by your coverage, but you're giving air to the anti-mask movement. They're not really a movement. I mean, everyone's pretty much cooperating because everyone actually does care about each other. More than it seems that people at the banner seem to, because they seem to be playing up the anti-mask thing. And again, I feel the need to call it out. And because, I mean, it doesn't seem like anybody else is going to. But I mean, when you put the public health at risk, someone has to. And again, you're funded by taxpayer dollars. And when you are funded by the public, you do deserve to be held accountable. That's the way the government works, and that's the way that should work. I mean, nobody voted to give you guys money. Let's be honest here. If you're taking our money and then trying to drive up outrage over a concern that's not really that big of a deal, and trying to give more confidence to people to not wear a mask, I don't know what you're trying to achieve here again. It seems pretty ridiculous. But when I see you asking a question that's pretty much been answered multiple times, I have to ask if you're stupid or if you're really just trying to stir up controversy at the expense of public health. And our taxes are funding this. Like, it's pretty messed up. Like, really, like, is your next step to become like Fox News or Facebook and start promoting anti-vaccination views once the vaccine starts rolling out? And start asking, like, how effective is the vaccine? How do we know this vaccine's going to work? Like, how are we for sure? Is there a better vaccine? Why didn't the vaccine come out sooner? And I mean, you start raising doubts about the effectiveness of, prescribed treatments by medical professionals in order just to drive clicks. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, you're essentially Facebook at that point. And do we really need to be funding you with taxpayer dollars? So again, these questions should be asked, and we need to hold you accountable for this one because it's pretty messed up. Like what you've done to Dr. Mercer, and just the public in general, but especially Dr. Mercer, someone who's shown real leadership during all this, is shameful when many of our politicians are not. I mean, at all levels, whether you're the federal, provincial, local, it really seems like everyone's trying to push the buck here, and like no one's taking responsibility on this, where Dr. Mercer came out and made a real decision, decided to take on the public flack, and almost immediately the Banner's coverage pretty much had Dufferin Council pretty much bending to the outspoken minority of, hey, let's maybe hold off on putting on a mask until people realize the importance of it. And it's like, if you delay something, that means it's not that important. So, I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. It's just playing politics, which just shows a lot of weakness in their leadership. I mean, stand up, she did. But again, everyone's pretty much cooperating with the whole mask thing, as we've seen. And again, I got frustrated when people were like, they're trying to pretend like they care about small businesses when very little coverage has been given to the lack of help of the rent subsidy and the people falling through the gaps with CERB. and also other government assistance programs. But the whole thing is that Dr. Mercer showed real leadership out of a lot of people who didn't. And I mean, I actually, like, I don't like playing identity politics, but I mean, I honestly question if you do this if Dr. Mercer was a man. Like, what's your problem? Like, I don't understand it. It's like to keep repeatedly asking a question that's been answered quite clearly, is like I have to ask what the purpose is, or if you're just incompetent, because I just don't get it when you could be using your coverage to, like, your platform to cover other things again that are more relevant to the community, whether it's the failings of the rental subsidy or the gaps in CERB, or again the community that is really affected by real issues that aren't meant to help them. I mean, the mask issue is meant to help people. So, I mean, how about you educate people more on why masks are needed, and just stop stop wasting people's time, like, especially the health professionals. Like, come on. I mean, I know you've been dealing with spokespeople too, but I mean, it's just, you're framing things in a way that's just, like, deliberately trying to outrage people. I mean, when you're, like, trying to drive up the concerns of, like, stores having to police this, it's ridiculous. Store owners have lots of responsibilities. This is a pretty easy one as it's being shown in the public. It's not that hard at all. You ask, and if they don't, then you let them go. But I mean, as you've seen, the majority of the public's doing it, and that's great, because I mean, the more people that do it, the less risk of infection getting spread. So that's what we're trying to achieve here. And I mean, I don't understand what the Banner is trying to accomplish with the coverage lately. But it's definitely not in the public interest. That's for friggin' sure. It seems like it's clickbait articles. And I mean, if that's what you need to do to prop up your government-funded failing business model, it's pretty sad. And I question your value to the community. And I question why you're doing it when it's quite likely a lot of your jobs are going to go away if Torstar Local is successful. And if that happens, like, the reporters that do get hired are going to be freelance, or like do get published are going to be freelanced. And the rest of you quite possibly won't even have jobs with Torstar. So I really question why you endanger the community like this. At least that's how it looks like to me. And I mean, we'll go through some of the posts and the headlines, but I mean, like, Dr. Mercer on April 1st, when she published her op-ed piece. So first, Dr. Mercer prefaces this article by saying that they are drawing on the best evidence at this moment in time. And I mean, it's been a while since April 1st, as we all know. But she also goes on to say is that there's a medical mask shortage, and diverting those masks to the public isn't in the best interest of everybody involved. We need them for the medical professionals so they can save lives. And also, the priority right now is social distancing. So if everyone's staying away from each other, there's really no need for a mask. I mean, there was a lot of supports to make sure people could stay at home, and that was the objective. And again, social distancing. Which again, it makes sense. You don't need a mask for that. And she says that in her op-ed piece. Next, she says is that masks reduce the spread of disease. But if you're sick, it reduces the chances of you spreading that disease out there and infecting healthy people. But if you're healthy, incorrect usage of a mask can increase the chances of catching COVID, just because people aren't educated on the use of mask. I mean, all of that makes sense. And now when you go to June 10th, when this article was released, a lot of these points that she addressed in her April 1st op-ed piece are covered. But let's take a look specifically. So on June 10th, the points that she provided on why face coverings are mandated, and remember, face coverings are masks, and that's the main point here, face coverings are masks, so this doesn't affect the supply shortage, and I mean, it's different now than 3 months ago anyways, or a few months ago, so it's different, and now there's a good supply of face coverings in the community. Now, number two is that social distancing is less of a priority. That's because we're trying to get the economy going, and we believe we've flattened the curve enough to take that risk. And face coverings also reduce the spread of disease. I mean, we've learned that over the last few months. Working in other countries, and we've been donating homemade masks to medical professionals for quite a while now. There's many groups, thankfully, in the community that help with this. So it helps reduce the spread of disease, which is a good reason of why to do it, especially since social distancing is less of a priority. And now there's more education on mask use. And honestly, for the people that haven't learned how to wear a mask properly, that includes myself, we were never going to learn until someone forced us to. But I mean, if we can figure out how to wash our hands properly and everything else that it takes for us to function in the world, we can learn how to wear a mask. It's not that hard. We're not that helpless. And if you are, then that raises a bunch of other questions and you need some other support, and we should get you it. But it's up to you to actually learn how to properly use a mask. And that's up to you. I mean, we all have responsibilities. So if you don't want to get sick, just like washing your hands, learn how to properly use a mask. It makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, I don't understand why that's hard to understand, Banner. This was all answered in June 10th. And it was also, again, it addresses a lot of the points for why we weren't mandating it back in April when Dr. Mercer did her op-ed piece. Now, on June 13th, after many opportunities to talk to Dr. Mercer and the spokespeople, and several articles, again, trying to draw up problems with this, the Banner publishes a story where they repeatedly asked Dr. Mercer why issue the facial covering order now and not back in April. And I have to ask, is the Orangeville Banner staffed by incompetent reporters, or are they trying to stir up controversy at the expense of public health? And again, why are tax dollars funding this? Because it doesn't make any sense to me. It's pretty ridiculous. And it's messed up. Like, again, they're trying to tear down someone that's showing real leadership when a lot of people aren't right now. She's trying to do her best to make up for her boss's decisions. It's not like she decided to reopen the economy. She's just trying to keep us all healthy. She's the only one showing that has real responsibility here. And again, that should be admired, not trying to be torn down and not trying to get people to work against her and trying to drum up controversy in order to drop clicks. Like, again, are you trying to get the Dufferin County leaders to believe that there's enough outrage over this that we have to repeal that order? Or you're trying to pressure Dr. Mercer into rescinding that order? Like, what are your objectives here? Like, seriously. Like, educate people, do your friggin' jobs, serve in the public interest. Because that's not what you're doing with this. Again, this is just drumming up controversy in order to drive clicks. And if you're funded by tax dollars, I question why you're doing that. Like, this is your time to do real journalism. Help us out. Cover the people that are actually hurt by all of this. Not try to create people who are hurt by this. Again, like I don't know what view the Banner is trying to promote here. It's like, oh yeah, we should bend over for our customers, the ones that want to endanger the public health, because we need their money more than ever. That's pretty ridiculous. I mean, what's the red line there? I mean, do we let them start smoking up in the friggin' stores now because they need the money? What's the deal? Like, I don't understand what your game is here. Again, like, my only suspicion, like, the only thing that makes sense is that you're trying to drive clicks because you need to fund your business model. And again, that's just a joke with our tax dollars funding a lot of this. But anyways, all of this seems to make sense, and I don't understand, after so many opportunities to talk to the local health people, why it was so hard for the Banner to understand this. Especially 3 days later in many articles in between of why face coverings are important, including clarification by the public health unit. So it's pretty sad, and I question why they did it. I really think it was to drum up controversy, to inspire clicks, and maybe drum up even more controversy when there was a battle between the Dufferin Council and the public health unit. And I mean, again, this is the same thing as Facebook giving a home for anti-vaxxers. And a lot of people view that as a problem. And if you can see how that's not a problem for Facebook, but it's not a problem when you do it with things like this, and possibly what you're going to do in the future with when vaccinations actually do come out for COVID, then that's a real problem, and I question your judgment, and I really question of whether you should be getting tax dollars to prop up your failing business model. Um, because again, I still believe Tourstar Local is going to happen, and you guys are going to be nothing but a website, and most of you guys are going to be freelance workers anyways. So I mean, I really I don't understand why you're going to jeopardize your community like this in order to keep a job you're probably not going to have in the future anyways. Um, and I actually question if some of this isn't have something to do with the Banner having an axe to grind with the public health unit after what happened on Mother's Day with the Avalon and the Banner reporting a COVID outbreak when that actually wasn't the case. Um, and again, scaring everyone on Mother's Day, which could have led to them being vandalized later that weekend. So, um, like this, their coverage on this just raises a ton of questions. Um, it's just not right.